Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is presented by Sports Field Management Association. This is week 3 of our 4-part series of post-conference education. Our featured speaker today is Mike Hales, Csfm. Mike is currently a sports field manager at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. He graduated from BYU with a bachelor's degree in landscape management and a minor in business. He was originally planning to major in computer science, but after a few semesters switched to landscape management. He has worked for a landscape company, a city parks department, and he has been a field manager at BYU for over 8 years. He became a CSFM in 2015. He is also on the board of the IMSTMA chapter. He enjoys being in the outdoors, hiking, and spending time with his wife and kids. Today, he will be presenting Opening Minds to Technology. Attendees will be muted during the presentation. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat feature and they will be answered throughout the presentation. Thank you for joining us today. You can go ahead and get started.
Well, welcome everyone. As was said, my name is Mike Hales. I'm a sports field manager at BYU. And today I'm going to be talking about opening minds using technology. So we're going to be talking about technology today. The goal today is for all of you to feel a little excited when you think about the possibilities technology can bring to our industry. Or at least for those who don't even like to hear the word technology, maybe just be a little bit more open to it and more open to the possibilities that it can present to us. So just quietly think to yourself, who considers themselves technologically competent? Or who considers themselves technologically challenged or inept? I know for me, I've heard the phrase, I just don't do technology a lot. You hear it a lot, and especially with some of the older generation. But the truth is, did anyone ride a horse to work today? How about take a carriage? Or did you go looking for a payphone to call your boss on this week? Or have you silenced your pager for this presentation? The truth is, we use technology every single day. We use it all the time. The fact that you are viewing this presentation was proof that you can use technology. But the difference between you, the sports field managers, or people related with that industry, and this guy may have something to do with the innovation adoption cycle. So this is the innovation adoption cycle. Whenever a new technology comes out, it goes through this cycle. And I'll kind of explain a little bit. So first on the left, you have the innovators. These are the people who are constantly coming out with new things, who are getting the new ideas, changing things, trying new things constantly. These are the people who are constantly trying to push the boundaries of what's possible. And then you have the early adopters. These are the people who are the first ones to jump on the new technology, who are always there looking to develop or to see ways that the technology can help them advance. These are like the people who are constantly getting a new cell phone when it comes out, who are constantly trying those new things as they come out. Then you have the early majority, those 34%. These are the people who still are fairly quick to adopt the new technology, but aren't as pressing towards getting it. Then you have the late majority. These are the people who eventually get around to it, who, you know, it's been out for a long time, you know, maybe we should switch, I don't know, like sure has been out for a long time. And then you got the laggards. These are the people who still have their flip phones, who may still carry on a pager. The people who will only change because they are forced to, because they actually have to change. So if we want to get ahead in our industry, we need to figure out how to move from the laggards or the late majority into that early adopters, early majority section. Or in other words, we need to embrace technology. And as we go kind of through this presentation, I'm going to talk about ways that we have tried to embrace technology and what we do at BYU, but also I want you thinking of ways that you can embrace some of the technology that's out there, and how that we can move our industry in general from that laggards into those early adopters of the new technology coming out. So I'll start off with one example of embracing technology that we've used here at BYU is the smart irrigation controllers. So BYU recently upgraded all of the irrigation controllers to the smart irrigation controllers. And here's some of the benefits that we've seen just from the short time that we've had them installed. First of all, much less time to do a check of the system. For me, as I'm out there, it's very easy to pull out my phone, click the stations that I want to check, and then just walk around checking all of the stations. There's no walking back and forth to the irrigation clock to change which zone is running. There's no walking back and forth to the valve to turn it on. You just pull it up, click the stations you want, walk around and check them. Another great thing is that it increases the efficiency of fixing problems within the system. I'm sure many of you have had the situation where you're going to fix a head, you've got the hole open, took the old head out, and then as you're putting the new head in, some sand falls down in your hole and fills in the pipe. And you have a tough decision there. You can either screw on the head and have that sand go right back in the head, or you can walk all the way back to the valve, turn on the valve, flush out the system, walk all the way back, screw on the head. But with this, you can just pull out your phone, click the station, turns on, click it to turn it off, screw on the head, and you're done. You can also, it can detect problems and send those problems to you in an email. Anytime there's an electrical problem, it will tell you which zone has the problem, where to expect it. And so you can know right where the problem's at and not spend as much time looking for the problems. Another benefit we've seen from this is the ability to schedule event pauses in irrigation. So you don't have sprinklers coming on during events. I know I rest a lot easier when I know that I can do an event pause, and then even others who have access to that are not able to turn on the water during that event. Another benefit is decreased time that it takes to water all the zones. BYU has roughly 3,000 different zones, and with multiple points of connection and different pipe sizes, it's very difficult to know, to be able to water all those zones. But through this technology of the smart irrigation, they can measure flow and they can maximize your system. So you can be able to water that many systems in a single night if needed. And like it says at the bottom, the ability to monitor flow on a zone and shut down if needed. It can monitor a zone and can shut it down if needed, so you don't come into a big pond on your field the next day. Also, the water savings. Last year was a big drought year for us in Utah and most of the West. And we saw some good water savings from these smart irrigation controllers. Is there any questions about this so far?
Doesn't look that way.
Okay, well, we'll keep going then. So another example of embracing technology is using soil sensors. Last spring, BYU Grounds partnered with another company, installed 20 different soil sensors on our football stadium field and soccer practice field. So we installed them in 4 different locations and at different depths. And actually the presentation right after this is a more in-depth look at this. I figured I would just mention it in this one as from more of a sports field manager side. But there's a much more in-depth look at this after this. So these soil sensors have helped us to better gauge how the water is moving through the soil. It's helped us to know how deeply we are watering and if any of that water is being wasted. It's also helping us to know where the water is sitting, if the water is where we want it to be in the root zone, or if it's only in the top inch, or if it's actually getting down where we want it to. So the irrigation controllers will help to know and apply the water, but this will help you to know how it's moving through your soil. And I think it's a key component with the irrigating system. But like with most technology, we're still new to this technology. We're trying to learn and apply the data that we're getting. We're still not at the point where we're honed in on how to use this exactly, but we're getting there. This is just from the app on my field, some of the data that it gives us. It will give us the water content percentage, the soil temperature, and as you can see, it will give you at 2 inches, at 6 inches, and at 12 inches. It will also give you the soil or water potential, and I'm sure they'll talk about more what that is and what it's measuring in the next session. But it's also connected to a weather station that gives us precipitation, wind speed, direction, air temperature, and all that data right there at the site where our soil sensor is. So here's some of the graphs from a short section. The one on the left is the water content, and the one on the right is the water potential. If you can see, that green section there is the section that you want it to be in. And so as you can see, we're still learning from this technology. Hopefully we'll eventually get to the point where we're constantly in that green section there, but we're not there yet. Was there a question about that? Okay, well, we'll keep going. So another example of embracing technology is the self-painting robots. We have not yet looked into these at BYU, but this is another example of a technology that can really save you a lot of time, especially when laying out a field. We have looked at these and have been to demonstrations, and these really are a way that technology could help us to save time in our jobs. So just another simple example of using technology to help us in our work is to use the calendar on your phone. I personally have multiple calendars on my phone, and they're synced with different people. So that way I can put in an event and it will be synced with the people that I work with or who are involved with that event. You can also put in, and I have one created for my family, so we can put in events there. And that way it just helps you to schedule things. It also helps so you can see when you have something scheduled for family time, to not overschedule yourself. But this is a good tool. You can look up how to sync your calendar with different people that you work with. And that way, as you input things, it will automatically appear on their calendar. Also, this is a great way of scheduling far out in the future. A lot of times, I know some people still like to have their paper map, their paper calendars, but it gets difficult if you're trying to schedule something even as far as a year in advance. But with these on your phone, you can just pull out your phone, go as far ahead as you need and schedule something. And then most of the time, people have their phones with them almost always. So you can pull it out and take a look and see what's on the schedule. Drones are another example of using technology to save time and energy. Drones can be used to get information such as nutrient status, water stress, disease, weed infestation, even like tracking, inventorying, measuring growth and canopy density, and can monitor for invasive grasses and vegetation. Before we did the install for the soil sensors, one of the departments at BYU came out and did a drone flight over our fields and took some maps. And here's an example. This is our stadium field, the map that was taken from it. And this gave us a better picture of where was a good spot to install those soil sensors. As you can see, you can kind of see where you might have to change your irrigation system a little bit or do small tweaks. And in general, it just gives you a good picture of what's going on the field. So even I know robot mowers are becoming a little more popular. This could be another way of saving time and manpower. But like all technology, this is not the answer for everything. There are places and spaces that would be great for this technology, but it's up to you to kind of experiment and see, is this something that would benefit us? Is this something that we could use to save time and manpower? Another technology that's becoming increasingly popular in the sports field world is phase mowing or phrase mowing. I've heard it called a lot of different things, but basically removing that top layer. We, in 2020, when everything got shut down, we had been wanting to experiment with this, and that was the perfect time for us to try it when everything was kind of shut down. And we went out and did it on our football practice and our soccer practice fields, and we had some good results from it. Like most technologies, I feel like you really, to know what it's going to be like on your field, you really just need to try it. There's no substitute for trying it on your own field. And this was kind of the purpose of doing this. We had looked at it, we talked to other people, we've gone to other facilities, but until we actually tried it, we didn't really know what the result would be. But we were fairly happy with some of the results we got from this. Also, I'll put in a little plug that not all technology needs to be flashy or computer-based. One example of this is we just use a section of chain link fence to drag behind after we aerate to help to break up those aeration pores. It can be very simple. It doesn't need to be something complex. It could be something that just saves you time. Technology for you may be even as simple as developing a better sequence for doing things, such as mowing at a specific time of day to make sure the field is dry enough, or changing the order of things, or the event preparation to better use your time. It could even just be using your equipment that you have in different ways or in different situations. Is there a question here?
Yes, we have two questions. The first one is, are sensors wireless?
What was that?
The first one is, are sensors wireless?
So the sensors that we installed were not wireless. They were wired, but we were able to, and they'll talk about this more in the next session, but we were able to just run wire with a machine that kind of just slit in the ground. There was not a lot of disruption for the field, but it just kind of slit in the ground and put the wires down. But the sensors that we used were not wireless. I'm sure they are being developed, but the ones we used were not.
Okay, and regarding the soil water sensors, how deep are they placed? And does the depth need to vary with different sub bases?
So this afternoon session after me will go more into depth of that, but I'll just kind of say that we put one at 2 inches, one at 6 inches, and one at 12 inches. And that was kind of a good, like, kind of overall a good setting to have them at, because you kind of see in different areas of the root zone where the water is getting to. But it would vary depending on how deep your roots are and other factors like that, what kind of a soil you have. So, okay, well, we'll keep going here. So I know most sports field managers are very good at checking the weather. Weather apps are a great way to help make better decisions. I know I'm constantly looking at the weather, trying to plan when I'm going to prepare for different events, what's the best way to do it. But these apps on your phone make it a lot easier to be able to prepare for events. Grow lights is another common one. We have not yet used these on campus, but are considered looking into them, as there are more and more areas that are increasingly being shaded. These are a good example of ways that technology can make things that, like this indoor facility, make it so you can continue to grow grass in there. So another example of this technology is an app called the Virtual Field Stencil. This was actually an app that I developed, and it's basically an app that's used for painting logos on the field. So it's an app that takes an image from your device and projects it using augmented reality onto the ground, where you can paint the image directly onto the surface without the need of a plastic stencil. So what is augmented reality? It's the technology that superimposes a computer-generated image on the user's view of the real world. That's a screen to put something into the real world that's not really there. So This is an example, we'll watch it right here, that shows kind of, this was Pepsi did a little kind of joke at a they did a little joke at a bus station using augmented reality on one of the screens. So we'll go ahead and watch it.
I'm telling you, that's how it works, man. There's more camera.
Okay, so that was an example of a way that augmented reality is used to put something in there that's not actually in there. Here at the bottom, you can also see a baseball example and a soccer example of putting something in the image that's not actually there. So kind of talk about the basics here. You open up the app, tap the screen, select a picture, you move it around till there's a yellow X where you want in the middle of the logo. Tap the screen and you can use 2 fingers to rotate and scale the image to the proper size. And then you can just start painting. The image stays where it is on the ground. And then when you're done outlining, close the app and finish filling in the logo. Here's just a couple examples of, this is me just using the app on my phone. So we'll watch just a couple of these just to kind of show it. So you can set up, like I did here, a little folder with all your different stencils you regularly use. And then have a predetermined spot. You can click and place your logo out there. You can rotate, scale your logo. And then here's an example of me painting. You'll be able to see that there's nothing out there for me, no stencil or pre-marked spots. Here's another one of using the app. You can kind of just see from the, basically from the phone's perspective. You can see as you move around, that yellow X will stay on the ground. And then as you move, the image stays where it's at. And then this last one, this is me marking out the West Coast Conference logo. So another example here. Okay, so those are just a couple examples. So some of the advantages of this app was you can use just about any picture, although fine detail is very hard to do. You don't need to buy the expensive stencils. You can also just use it to get a preview of what something might look painted on your field. Also, I always hated pulling out the stencils because I would always get those tiny little paint chips and all over on the field as you're folding and unfolding the stencil. So you don't have to deal with those. Also, anyone who has tried to pull out a logo when the wind is blowing, you know that it's no fun to try and adjust it and get it just right. So wind is not as big of a factor. But like most technology, there are some major disadvantages, and it's not a perfect solution. It's very limited in what it can do. First of all, the image can shift slightly while you're moving, and it can shift a lot if you like spin really fast or move. So it's not perfect for everything. Second, it's hard to do fine detail like small lettering. With a traditional stencil, you have that hard edge where it's shielded, and so it's easy to get fine, crisp edges. With this one, it's just up to the skill of the person painting to be able to go right to the edge and not pass. So third, it can be hard to see if it's a really bright day. And it's also a very energy consuming app for your phone, which is why I recommend just using it to like mark it out and then going through. But here's a couple of examples that I've used. So that center soccer crest logo, I use this app to paint that. Same with the West Coast Conference logo over there. I also did the West Coast Conference logo there. And then even it can be a fun thing to do at home with your kids or with your family. Like my son's birthday here, or my other son's birthday. Also, kids love to play with it, and you can take pictures and stuff like that. So it is kind of a fun thing for that too. But the real reason that they let me present today was I showed them these pictures. Or actually, I guess now it's this picture with the new change that was made at this last conference. But like this, you can just get a preview of what it would look like to get something painted out there. So, but now that we've seen some of the examples of ways that technology has been improving the way things are done, I'd like to just start thinking about what the future might hold, just to kind of get your minds going about what are some possibilities for the future. Because a lot of these possibilities are going to come from you, are going to be your ideas, your suggestions, and it's going to help to make these possibilities true. So one idea was maybe they're going to have a laser graded top dresser, something that every time you go out to level your field, in the high spots, it automatically, the laser closes up the opening, so you're not putting out as much sand, puts out more sand in the low spots. So every time you're going out to top dress a field, you could be helping to level it. Another example of something, maybe someday they'll have the cutting action of hair clippers instead of your reels on a mower. Or maybe someday you'll just be able to go out and push a button and lasers will go across your field and cut it in a matter of seconds. Or maybe they'll have the GPS mowers that you can do programmable patterns for perfectly straight lines. I've actually seen a video of a demo. This is not that far out and may even currently be available to have a GPS driven mower. Another idea I thought of was maybe they'll have a device like a sky cam that's used for filming games, but you'll have a sensor attached to it and a hose and a nozzle. So it can go around your field, sense your dry spots, and be able to put water directly on those dry spots in a very precise way. Or maybe you could use the same kind of setup for chemical application, where it's able to just go back and forth across your field and put out extremely accurately the chemicals that you would like. Maybe someday they'll have artificial rain, where you're able to just be, instead of turning on your sprinkler systems, to say, hey, the field needs water, let's turn on the rain, and you'll flip a switch and you'll have artificial rain with excellent distribution uniformity. Or maybe an indoor field with an artificial sun and artificial rain. So you can get all the benefits of an indoor field without the disadvantages. Or maybe you'll have athletes who put lenses in their eyes that project the lines on the field, similar to the yellow first down line projected on TV. So there's no more need for painting lines or logos on the field. Kind of a funny story with this. My neighbor across the street, she is a big BYU fan, and she, for several years, was just watching games from home on TV. And then one time she went to the stadium and was watching the game, and she leaned over and asked her son, hey, where's the yellow line? And she didn't realize that that was actually just projected from the TV broadcast. Or maybe someday we'll be sitting at computers, piloting drones that will do all the landscaping work for us. Or maybe there'll be even autonomous robots doing the work. Although based on most movies, this option doesn't end well. But in closing, technology is there to help us do our jobs better or in a more efficient manner. Let's help to accelerate the pace of these new technologies by adopting the ones that are out there and pushing companies to develop new ones. You think about phones, for example. Why are they constantly making such advances in phones? I believe part of it is that people are buying them. People are using them and using that new technology, and that's pushing the companies to constantly be looking for new innovations. For our field, I feel like if we were adopting the technology that's out there, it would greatly help to push companies to develop new ones. And I think this would be a great benefit to us as sports field managers, just to increase the rate at which technologies are coming out. And the way we can do that is by adopting the ones that are out there, giving feedback to the companies, and pushing that to constantly come out. And last of all, I encourage anyone out there who has a great idea for new technology or another way to improve the way we do things to speak up, look into the possibilities and to make it happen. I'll just kind of share my story. So like I said in the intro, I took 1 year of computer science classes and then found out that that wasn't for me, and switched over to landscape management at BYU. But some of those classes kind of stuck with me. And then a while back, a brother of mine got a VR game set and he let me play with it. And I thought, this is a lot of fun and a really cool technology. How can we make this applicable to our work? And then through that, I was able to come up with the idea, well, if we're able to project an image on the ground, we could be able to paint without the need of the stencils. So once I had the idea, I went out and there's a club on campus. I talked to them. It's a VR club and they said, yeah, I think that could work. Good luck with that. And I think that's kind of where most ideas kind of stop, was we have a great idea, but we don't know how to make it come about. And with me, I just kept searching and talking and looking. You'd be surprised how much you can learn on YouTube or just from searching online. But I was able to kind of piece together and slowly be able to develop this app. But I wanted to quit several times, and I'm sure that happens with every technology or invention that comes out. But if they stick with it, you can make it happen. And I would just like to tell everyone that if you have great ideas, you can make them happen. Just speak up, talk to our companies that are such great suppliers for us and help us to improve the technology. So now we'll just kind of see if there's any questions.
We had another one come in. Where is the VFS logo application download located?
So that actually kind of goes into my other story was, so it is currently on the Google Play Store, but because like other people have not been using it, it was too costly to keep it on the Apple Store. So currently it's not on the Apple Store. It is on the Google Play Store, but I hope to get it back on the Apple Store at some point. But other questions?
So I think you answered this one. Android or Apple?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I think you already answered this question. He asked, is it Android or only Apple?
Sorry, I couldn't hear again. Could you ask her one more time?
Sure, sorry. Is it on Android or only Apple?
So right now it's on Android. It's not currently on Apple. I did have it on the Apple site, but it is not currently up there. Hopefully soon it will be back up there. So.
Looks like that's all for the questions. Do you have your contact information?
Sure. So here's my email. If you do have any other questions or want to even just send me an email, feel free to send me an email. I'd love to respond to any questions or answer any questions that I can.
Okay. All right, well, I guess that wraps it up. Thank you, and thank you all for joining us today. We do have another presentation today starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Colin Campbell, Dr. Neil Hansen, and Dr. Brian Hopkins will be presenting water management, cutting edge tools you may be missing. So make sure to register and join us for that presentation in a few minutes. And then also don't miss the final week of presentations taking place next Tuesday. You can visit the SFMA website to sign up, or emails will be sent so that you can get registered. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of the week.